Heyo, welcome everyone to Today in the Scene by Indie Arcade Wave. I'm Joe, your host, and here on In the Scene, we dive into what's happening in the arcade space, from new arcade developers, arcade owners and operators, and just news in the space in general. Now, if you're looking to add an indie arcade game to your collection, don't forget that the website is live. We have, I believe, 12 or 13 games on there now. All of them are available for sale. Just feel free to reach out, figure out which one you want. A lot of them you can just buy straight away. The other ones you might have to reach out to me so I can get in touch with the developer. But yeah, let me know what you want and we'll move forward from there. This week, we're going to dive a little bit more into like the day-to-day operations of being in the arcade. We talked to a lot of arcade owners. We never really talked to the people that work in the arcade. So I've got a friend of mine, Nick, aka Nick Nostalgia. He is the GM at Starcade. I'm sure you've seen the video where we walk through Starcade and meet him. So how you doing, Nick?
Hey, I'm great. Thanks for having me on.
I'm happy to have you on. We've been talking on Instagram, I think, a little bit, and then I met you in person when we brought a, what, an Xbox One or something to the arcade, and we did a tour there. It was awesome. A lot of people enjoyed it, and I just thought, why not talk to Nick and dive more into what it's like running an arcade? Right? We've had plenty of owners on, and we hear their side of it, but what's it like day to day operations? So first off, just who's Nick? Introduce yourself.
All right. Well, yeah, my name is Nick. I've been in the arcade restoration hobby since 2021. Before that, I was basically into whatever my kids are into, right? So Legos, Taylor Swift, and Bubble Guppies for my 15-year-old, my 12-year-old, and my 4-year-old. But now that I got my own hobby, this is what I've been doing, and I just love it. I found it by accident. It's kind of it's not kind of, it's really a sad story, honestly. In 2020 July, my dad passed away unexpectedly from a massive heart attack, and my dad was my guy. He was the one that I turned to. He was my safe person. We rode Harleys together. We went fishing together. He was just he was the wisest man that I ever met, and I miss him dearly. And he taught me all of my woodworking skills. So when he passed, I grieved hard. Couldn't get on my bike anymore because all I could do is see him, and it's not cool to cry on a Harley. So I was really into like the arcade one up stuff, thinking I could just have a small arcade in my basement that will hit the nostalgia feels really well. And for me, growing up, the arcade was a utopian society. It was my safe place. Like that's where I went if I was having a bad day. That's where I went, and I feel like that's where I found my first taste of my independence. So all of that to be said, the arcade and arcades have always had such a special place in my heart. So when did the restore work on games, I felt connected to my dad. So that's why I started doing it. And what's funny is my dad hated video games, but we did a lot of woodworking and stuff together. Anyways, all that to be said, yeah, I was a youth pastor for 12 years, and I stepped down from youth ministry to support my wife in her small business. My wife at the time, we're actually separated now, and became a stay-at-home dad, and ran into Brian Armitage at Starcade and told him what I was doing, and if he ever needed help with restore work for the arcade, I would love to be a part of that because I just wanted to see it succeed. He offered me a job, told him, can't really do that right now. So it was a couple days a week, started at Paradise Arcade Shop. And then a couple months later, he offered me the general manager position at Starcade after I told him my vision for if I opened an arcade.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, that's great that it's like really deep in your history. It's the love for your dad and the history you had with him, like bringing what he taught you back into your current hobby to preserve his memory. And I mean, that's great, man. I really
Thank
love
you.
that. And
Oh man, I'll
just
get out there at 9 a.m. and start working on a cabinet, blink, and all of a sudden it's 6 p.m. I'm like, I didn't even eat yet. It's just in
yeah,
my zone.
I feel that, sometimes you just
Yep.
get into the zone and you're not even hungry. It doesn't matter anymore. You're being satiated by that love for what you're doing.
Yes.
And that's
Yes.
that's great that you jumped in with Brian. You just wanted to restore more cabinets. help the arcade succeed, and then you got this position as the GM. So how did your collecting start? Like, obviously you can see all the games behind you. How did that start, and how did that pivot into like actually working for Bryan to restore games?
Oh, that's funny. Yeah. So, quite honestly, like I said, we had arcade one-ups here in the basement, and the whole idea was it was just to get my mind right, to grieve well during the pandemic, because we were playing it pretty safe. And anyways, I just lost my train of thought. I I did this. The whole idea was find a game, fix a game, flip a game. And as you can see, they all just kind of ended up in my basement. The arcade one-ups went out, and the first year of collecting, I had like buffet eyes and thought, oh, I was like so green, like, oh, I'll never see this game again. I got to get it now. And that's totally not the case. So my collection has had a revolving door this past 3 to 4 years. And before, it was anything that I liked, that I thought was exciting, I grabbed it. Now I'm a little more particular, because obviously you run out of space. So now for me, the way I've evolved into this hobby is it's got to have special controls or high nostalgia. Um, and then the as far as the restore work went, I didn't know I had a talent in it. Like the stuff that I pay attention to so much detail that a lot of people will tell me that my restore work looks like it came right off the line from Bally, Midway, or Williams, and that's an extreme compliment. I take pride in what I do, and if I sell it to somebody, I want to make sure that I'm selling them something that they're going to love, and something that it's not going to break down right away on them. So I met Bryan because I picked up a Konami cabinet that he had for sale. It was empty, had a working monitor. I think he had it priced at $200, and I was like, it was reskinned as a NFL Blitz, NBA Showtime, but on the back, on the little tag, it was a Simpsons. So I looked at that as like, okay, well, this thing should go in the dump. It was nasty, but I feel like this is a blank canvas now. So I made that into an X-Men, and I put Turtles in Time, Sunset Riders, G.I. Joe, and Captain America and the Avengers in it. And that was my designated beat 'em up cabinet. But now I got rid of that towards the pinball. The pinball that I have back here, I paid for all of those out of my restore money. So not a dime of that came out of our budget, which is cool. But yeah, so that's how I met Bryan. And we just been, I would go to Paradise to pick up parts when I needed it. And eventually just developed a friendship with Bryan, especially after I started working for him at Paradise. He was excited to get somebody that was excited about the games like him. And basically, like I said, as I started there, it was humble beginnings. I was cleaning candy cabs to get the grime off them. We went out to one of his storage units, and we were gutting the game for parts and monitors. And that's when I was telling him about my vision for an arcade. And like I said, a couple months later, he asked me if I wanted to be the general manager, and the owners are allowing me to implement that vision.
I think that's great. I mean, like, to be able to talk to someone like Bryan, and I'm pretty sure I know which warehouse you're talking about out in Wisconsin. It's like,
yeah.
How does this man have this many cabinets? Is like always
Right.
what I think. It's like this is one of the storage units. It's like it's just insane how many cabinets that the three owners together have, and that's why the games at Starcade are so cool, because they have this collection that they've been collecting for decades, right? Like, there's some stuff in there, like that blaster cabinet that we saw, and that Sinistar cockpit, and the Star Wars cockpit, and like these are games you just don't see, right? Like it's really cool to have them in an arcade. So let's talk about you stepping into the position of being the general manager and what it's like on a day-to-day basis of running the arcade, because you're in there 5 days a week at least?
Right now, yeah, until January 5th. So, like, as a manager, I can pitch ideas to the owners. Like I said, okay, We're going to have the public school out for winter break. We have college kids home on winter break. We have people trying to burn their PTO that they're going to lose by the end of the year. Why not open 7 days a week and be available? So that was something that we did that's going to last till this Sunday, and then we'll go back to the 4 days a week. Hopefully that will change as we get the alcohol. We have done our part. We're just waiting for the St. Paul to give us that green light that we can start serving beer, and that will probably help make us a little busier. At least that's what we're hoping for. As far as managing an arcade goes, I've made plenty of mistakes, but I also feel like I'm kind of a natural at it. Maybe again, it comes back to, I don't say that like pridefully either. I want to emphasize I've made a lot of mistakes as I've went here, but I run the arcade like I would my youth ministry. And give me a second to just kind of explain that. It's not my job to force faith down somebody's throat. My job that I felt that I was called to was to make kids feel safe, valued, and accepted. And the rest of that stuff will figure itself out. And that's how I run the arcade. My job is not, I don't care what the person's going through. We want them to feel safe, valued, and accepted. This is a place to retreat. This is that utopian society that I grew up in. I want to recreate that space that I can tell if a customer has had a bad day or a good day, especially a regular, and be there for them. But yeah, that if I could change the name from Starcade, I always joke around with the owners and I say I would love to call it Come As You Arcade, because I don't care about your religion, your politics, any of that stuff. At the arcade, you're a gamer, and we just want to game with you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that's a really good philosophy to have on it, is like, this is just a place to hang out, right? We all love these games. It's got nostalgia for everybody. We're just here to play some cool games, and they've got a great selection of games.
Yeah.
I
Over
love
200,
Starcade,
2 levels.
and they've got some indies in there too. I know. I did
Yeah.
that Death Ball end up on the floor?
Death Ball is in there. I put
Okay.
that one together up on the floor. We got the Galactic Battleground. We got the Food Fight Frenzy and the Warlords. That Food Fight Frenzy. Oh, that is so good.
It's
I'd
fun,
love to
isn't it?
replace my kitchen table with that one. It's so fun.
So, I mean, just on that same vein, like, tell me what you think about the indie space. Obviously, you have a few of the indie games there. I'm sure you've been to shows with more. Like, you went to Southern Fried Gaming. I know that
Yeah.
there's a bunch of indies that end up there. Tell me what you think about the space in these games.
Can I jump back real quick to the
Go
arcade
for it.
and managing?
Yep.
So with that, once we have that established, my 30,000-foot vision for the arcade is that we start running tournaments for charity, or speed runs, or high score chasing events where people can raise money for a certain charity that they want to raise money for, and we can get them on Twitch, YouTube Live under the Starcade's own personal channel, and start changing the world through video games. I think that would just be the coolest thing. It doesn't always have to be an athlete, right? So that's something that I'm trying to implement as well. Last Monday, for a week ago, we opened up for free for the entire community. All of our gamers, everybody in Minnesota was welcome to come, and we asked if they wanted to pay it forward, they could donate money. We were taking collections of non-perishable food items, and we raised $3,000 on Monday for the Masonic Children's Hospital over at Fairview.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love that side of it. So yeah, just tell me what you think about the indie side. Like, I obviously, like,
Yes.
you have a lot of plans here for the arcade, and I think indies kind of fall into this space of, like, if these arcades want to stay relevant, the nostalgia is going to last for a while, and these games are great. Like, even people that have never played them are enjoying them. But I think the indie stuff is the future, right? So what do you think about that space right now?
There's a couple things I really love about it. Number one, it gives me hope that the arcade is going to stay alive because of what you guys are doing, and you're creating awesome games. And what I love about it is you're not so focused on it being like top of the line graphics. Like today, I feel like video games is an interactive movie. As long as you put in the time, you're going to beat it, right? But at the arcade, it wasn't about that. It was about trying to be the highest score on the game, and that way you could talk crap to your friends, right? But also just fun. Like if there's a game that I can acquire like a skill to, or like there's a strategy around it, that's a game I want to keep on playing. Death Ball, oh my gosh, that's a great game. Galactic Battleground, I can't stop playing it. But the Food Fight Frenzy and re-evaluating like how that game, like adding stuff like the Human Shield and like the Rapid Fire, that was such a nice touch. All that Doc Mack at the Galloping Ghost putting out Dark Presence hopefully soon. Like that is exciting stuff. I can't wait to see what the future holds for arcades.
Yeah, I think the indie stuff is fun, and I'm glad that you got to play like Food Fight and Death Ball and Galactic Battleground, and you have the newest cabinets for all of them. I mean, as someone that worked on Food Fight Frenzy, I haven't even seen that cabinet yet. Like the
Oh,
last time I
what?
saw it, it was a prototype. Yeah, because I've been on the road.
Oh,
I haven't been back to Minnesota, so the
sure.
art on there I didn't even get to see. But us turning it into a 4-player element really changed everything in that game, and now more people that didn't get to play it or want to play Food Fight get to play it with their friends now and experience a completely different side of the game.
And that tabletop's going to be more affordable than the old game back in the 80s if you can
Yeah.
find it, right? Like
Yeah.
it's a no-brainer. It's so good.
I mean, I think those cabinets are going for like 9-10 grand these days. Like if you can find one in solid condition, like they're hard to find.
Yeah, I don't know 9-10 grand. I haven't seen a price. I know the most I've seen like arcades like 720, rare ones like 720, Food Fight. Top dollar Paperboy I've seen is
Mhm.
about 5 grand. But that's not to say that they don't go for that. But again, if what the table's going to be a couple thousand, I don't know what the final price is. It's like, and you can play 4 players instead of 2. You know where I'm going to put my money, right?
Right. I think I think what I've heard is like 4,500 ballpark is kind of what we're looking at for
Okay.
that cabinet. A little bit cheaper than the Galactic Battleground because it doesn't have the marquee and the pole and everything over it. That adds a stupid amount to cost just to
I
have that
bet it
marquee on there.
does.
So let's talk about your collection, your restorations. Like, what do you have in
Sure.
the room, and like, just point some out that are like interesting because I know that Satan's Hollow came from Ralph, right?
Yeah, that was the other blessing of the pandemic is I got into watching YouTube on arcade one-ups and how to restore arcades and all that to be said. I started watching Retro Ralph, and funny enough, we became really good friends through YouTube. It started out with sending him a live chat while he was doing a live stream, to eventually Facebook, social media friends, to Messenger, to exchanging phone numbers. And I've even gone out to his place and did restore work with him. It was like an epic weekend. Trying to look in my game room here to see what my oldest game is. So my first of my collection now is this Mortal Kombat 3. I got that actually, funny enough, in Atlanta, Georgia, and that game that I did the restore work on it, and it's got all 4 Mortal Kombats playing on that game on a switcher, original hardware, no emulation. Next to it is Gauntlet Legends. That was my elusive cabinet. I kept on like when one would pop up, I would like, oh, should I make an offer? Should I not? By the time I made an offer, it had already been sold. We have my Big Blue, which is actually, it runs Third Strike on all original hardware. It runs Killer Instinct 1 and 2, Marvel vs. Capcom 2, and a Mister. And then over here, kind of turn it. Sorry, just a second here. I got Narc, which, funny enough, I got that Narc for free. And you'll have to remind me to tell the story about that. But that was a cool score. The Smash TV I got from Paul Saarinen, one of our owners of Starcade. And I have Smash TV, Total Carnage, and Robotron on a Williams J-Rock. So I've got the twin stick collection. Sinistar I got for a trade. I was working on a Ninja Turtles arcade cabinet, and a guy in Wisconsin, he owns an arcade in Eau Claire. He traded me straight up for the Sinistar. That was the first time I went to Galloping Ghost. That was the game that I fell in love with and couldn't stop thinking about. Right over this one right here is Paperboy and Satan's Hollow. Those two are my biggest restores, my best restores that I have ever done. The Paperboy was in North Carolina, sitting in a garage for almost 20 years, and the thing had rust all over it. And now this one's all cherried out, brand new graphics, chrome handlebars. Brian Armitage even gave me one of his employees, Sam, did a mod to where it's called the Power Pro mod. So it's only running on one power supply, because that game was notorious for breaking down because it was a bad design back in the day where it ran with two power supplies and they kept fighting each other and would cause the board to fail. The Satan's Hollow, I still can't believe I was able to pull this off, but I got that from Ralph, and that one I saved the stencil. I painted the whole thing, masked Satan on the side, and then went back and brush painted with acrylic paint to touch up where Satan is on the side. So that one was probably my best restore yet. And then I got Tapper right there, which you can barely see. That one I picked up in Illinois. A guy had it for $2,500, so I jumped and drove out there and got it. And then I got Donkey Kong right there.
Yeah, I think you have that's an insane collection for the basement, and especially since you have switchboards and multiple JAMMAs in some cabinets. You have a lot of games for the space, and then you got the pinball, which you said. You said you have the pinball, which is all from flip money, so you didn't even have to really pay out of pocket for those. Just tell us about NARC first, because you said that story is crazy, and then let's touch back on the pinball stuff.
Yeah, sure. So NARC, I had been searching for one. Again, kind of like the buffet eyes thing. It's not a game that it's not my favorite game, but to me, it's a piece of art. It's got all the say no to drugs on it, and it just screams Nancy Reagan. But I still love it. It's one I can't get rid of. It's just too cool looking. But so yeah, I was searching for one. And again, Paul Saarinen to the rescue. Paul knew I was looking for one, and he found a warehouse sale. I think it was out in Utah. And he said, dude, this guy's got a NARC non-working for $300 and one that is working for $600. Do you want them? And I said, yeah, I do. So I paid him right away. I helped pay for the shipping because they bought some games too. And so I basically took the NARC. I bought that they were both nasty, terrible. One monitor worked, one didn't. But I basically pieced one board worked and one board didn't. So I pieced all to get a working one together, got reproduction graphics from Galloping Ghosts. And the other one I sold for $1,100, non-working, and guy bought it. So I actually made $100 on that deal.
And you got a NARC to add to the collection.
And I got a free NARC. Yeah.
That's so cool. And that's so nice having connections like that in the space, like Paul, that you have the leverage of, hey, we're going to buy 6, 7, 8 cabinets from this auction. This game that you're looking for is in it. Should we just throw it in with everything else we have? That's such a convenient thing to have. And that's what I think, the arcade holds so much nostalgia for people. And there's so many memories and connections that are made within it. And people that I've met even through it, just in, this 7 years that I've been in the space. It's you can build these connections and then get games that you're looking for, which is awesome. And you flip them and buy pinballs. So
real quick, just let me jump on that.
Go ahead.
Also, the best part of this hobby is the people. I've never met such a warm, welcoming, and helpful community. And it's because of the community, eventually the games just find you. And again, I'm talking the best community I've ever been a part of. And you're talking to a guy that said he worked for a church for 12 years. Okay, these people are the real deal. You get a couple carnies here and there, but most of them, again, how did we meet? Through the arcade. It's just
exactly.
awesome.
Yep. Yeah, there's just so much passion in the space and enjoyment. It's like if you have something that's not working and you don't know exactly how to fix it, or you're looking for a part or whatever, all you have to do is send your feelers out. And the people that you tell that you're looking for that part, they tell their network, and their network tells their network, and eventually you find what you're looking for, which is just
Yeah,
awesome. Absolutely awesome. So pinballs, you're new to pinball.
very new to
Tell me
pinball, but love
what
it.
are you learning in the process of like starting to collect pinball?
That I love it more than arcades, which is bad because I have all these arcades and 3 pins, and now I want more pins, right? So it's a never-ending cycle. No, I right now I like my game room just the way it is. But what I like about pinball versus an arcade is it's a different game and a different experience every time. Not one pinball machine is the same. And whenever you go to play it, you could have a really shitty game or you can have a really great game, right? Whereas you play something like Ninja Turtles or X-Men or even Paperboy, right? You know what to expect. The same houses or enemies are going to be there. You know who you're going to fight at the first level on X-Men. Uh, it's a lot of repetition, especially with 90s games. But all that to be said, that's one of the pieces that I like about pinball is that it's always something different. Uh, Also, what I like about it is I always thought when you play pinball, the goal was just not let the ball drain. And I learned quickly that it's actually about controlling the ball and allowing the machine to tell you a story. So paying attention to the play field. This light is blinking, hit the ball there. And then you get this monumental moment on the play field where it does something cool. And who doesn't like a really good multi-ball, right?
Yeah, that's always nice when you get a multi-ball and then you get more points on that ball than you do in the whole game. And it's just it's super exciting to unlock stuff with that multi-ball that, you know, sometimes takes till the third ball to get to. And it just changes everything up. So last question I have for you. You've done a lot of restoration, you work on cabinets all the time. Pinball or arcade? Which is more challenging to work on?
So I haven't done any restore work yet on pinball. I would love to try it someday. Probably I can see it happening someday where I'll get an older one for next to nothing and then start trying to restore it. But the experience I do have with the pinballs is I've done a lot of modifications. Like my Godzilla, I'll never sell that one because of all the mods that I put into it. I'll never get that money back, and it's just such a good game. Um, Arcades, I kind of have it down to a science, depending on the type of game. If it's not a stencil, like if it's just a vinyl graphic, I could get it ready for graphics in a day, and then it's back to putting everything back together. If it's something like I said, Satan's Hollow or something where it's going to take a lot of TLC, then it'll take me some more time. But yeah, I don't know. I can see myself in the future, not the near future, but in the future, going all pinball and selling all these games and buying pinball.
Yeah, I never really thought I would want to own a pinball, but now I would love to once I settle down. So that's all I had for you, Nick. I really appreciate your
Yeah.
time. Thanks for coming on here. Last thing, just shout out any social medias or anything that you want to like let people in the community know about.
Yeah, mainly for Starcade. If you're on social media, make sure you find Starcade in St. Paul, Minnesota. Like us, where I'm always creating challenges for people, giving reasons for people to come in, uh, whether that's to get a free day pass or pizza or whatever, something silly. Just again to invest and embrace the community so that they know that they're being cared for. You can find Starcade on Facebook, Instagram. And right now, I think that is it. We will eventually be having a YouTube channel and a Twitch once we get the tournaments going. I have a personal Instagram called Nostalgia, which kind of goes over all of my restores. I haven't really touched it much as of lately. I've been really busy with the arcade, but if you want to see some cool before and after pics, you can find me on there, just like the name says, Nik Nostalgia.
Awesome. Thanks for coming on, Nick. I really
You
appreciate it.
bet. Thanks
I
for
love
having me.
sharing your story, and I appreciate you, you know, watching the channel and chatting with me about some of the episodes. So if you're
Keep
still
up all
watching,
the
don't
great
forget
work,
to
Joe.
Absolutely will, man. For anyone that's still watching, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. It helps us a ton. The wave will continue to grow. We can all ride it together. All of the games are available for sale on indiearcadewave.com. So go ahead, go there. And if you hit the buy now button, it should take you right to the website. And if it doesn't take you right to the website, just reach out and we'll get you in touch with the developers so you can bring that game to your arcade. And until next time, peace.